What's up, everybody? It's your man Diggy Pews. Welcome to my PewTube channel. In the background here, you're watching an iPhone video from a competition I shot back in February when I was a much worse shooter than I am today. However, the purpose of this particular video is I've been posting these videos of me shooting, and I realized that most of you probably have no idea what it is that you're actually watching. So I'm going to break down the different types of competitions that I shoot, the different divisions within those competitions, some rules and some scoring, so that way you guys can better follow along and enjoy the content. Cue the intro! Okay, so the first thing is I shoot currently 3 different types of competitions. The first one being USPSA, which stands for United States Practical Shooting Association. Another type of match that I shoot is called IDPA, which is the International Defensive Pistol Association. And the third type of match that I shoot is a steel match. Now, I'm using Steel Challenge here, but the matches that I shoot aren't exactly Steel Challenge matches, which I will explain later on when I get into the steel matches that I shoot. But for all intents and purposes, I shoot 3 different types of matches: USPSA, IDPA, and Steel Challenge. Now, USPSA is considered more of the gaming type of shooting. USPSA has stages set up with paper and or steel targets, and you as the shooter kind of come up with your game plan of where you're going to start, what targets you're going to engage in what order, planning where you're going to reload, things like that. It's kind of like a free-for-all. There is no specific order in which you need to shoot things for the most part unless specified, and you really get to be kind of free with your stage planning and how you attack a specific stage. Now, most stages are going to consist of some paper targets and possibly some steel targets. Now, the way the paper targets work, unless otherwise specified, you are going to shoot 2 shots into each one. Now, you can shoot more, but basically the best 2 shots are what counts towards your score. I will get into scoring a little bit later, but basically paper targets is your best 2 shots. Steel targets, for the most part, unless otherwise specified, must fall to be scored. So if you're shooting at a steel target and you hit it, but it doesn't fall, and it's not specified that it doesn't have to fall, you need to keep shooting it until that steel actually falls down. And there have been times where I've hit a steel target like 3 or 4 times before it actually falls. Usually in that case, it's probably bad calibration on the steel target, and they will usually verify it, and if it doesn't fall on what's a calibration shot, they will give you the option to reshoot the entire stage. Now, the next type of competition that I shoot is IDPA, or International Defensive Pistol Association. A lot of the stages are going to be very similar to what you would see in, say, a USPSA stage. They have a lot of the same kind of things as far as 2 shots on paper, steel must fall, things like that. There's a lot of similarities. The biggest difference between IDPA and USPSA, it's International Defensive Pistol Association. So basically, you have to treat this more as like a real life scenario where the targets can actually shoot back at you. In USPSA, you're kind of just running around trying to hit stuff as fast as you can. In IDPA, you're being a lot more tactical. There's something called tactical priority, which means that you have to shoot the targets in specific orders because certain targets will be more a threat than other targets will be. I will obviously get a little bit more in depth into that when I show some examples of some stages, but that's one of the biggest differences. Another difference is with IDPA is you have to draw from concealment. With USPSA, you just have like your guns just out on your hip and all that kind of stuff. With IDPA, a lot of people either use appendix style holsters, which means that their gun is in a holster that is inside their belt, in their appendix area, and their shirt will cover that. And in order to draw, they will lift their shirt and then pull their gun out. Another way that you can do it, which is the way that I do it, is you wear what's called a cover garment. Some people wear vests, some people wear button-up shirts. Some people just use really big t-shirts. Whatever it is, it has to cover your gun. And when it's time for you to shoot and you go and you're ready and the beep goes off, you will then move that cover garment out of the way, draw your pistol, and then start shooting the stage. Another thing with IDPA is because of tactical priority, stages basically have to be shot in a specific order. There is no, let me figure this out. I think I'm going to start here, even though that guy's starting over there. There's very specific starting positions and targets that you have to engage in certain orders. So it's a lot more tactical than the more quote unquote gaming style of USPSA. Now, the third type of competition I shoot, here I'm calling it Steel Challenge. However, what I shoot isn't exactly Steel Challenge. Steel Challenge Shooting Association is a very specific competition that has 8 stages that literally never change. Every year, they are exactly the same. And basically, each stage is 5 steel targets. 4 of them you engage first, and the 5th target is designated as the stop plate. So basically, you will stand in a box, the timer will beep, you will draw your gun, you will shoot the first 4 targets in whatever order you so choose. Obviously, there's faster ways to do it, but you pick whatever order you want to shoot those 4 in, and then you hit the 5th plate, which is the stop plate. You will then get your gun ready again for the next string, and you will have 5 strings. So that means you will do that 5 times, and then they will keep either the best 3 or 4, I believe, depending on the stage, and that will be your time for that stage, and you do that for 8 stages. Now, the type of steel that I shoot is similar in the fact that I'm shooting only steel targets. For the most part, I'm standing in a box or I'm standing still and not moving, and the targets do have to be shot in a specific order that is laid out by the match director, and they do like a stage walkthrough, so you know like what order you have to do it in and everything like that. But that's basically it as far as like the steel that I shoot. Again, there's basically no movement, standing in one spot, shooting steel targets, however many there are, in whatever order that is deemed by the match director. So up next, I would like to discuss the different divisions in these competitions, but in order to keep it short and sweet, I'm only going to go through the divisions in USPSA, and the reason I'm doing that is because these divisions translate almost identically to IDPA and Steel Challenge and other types of matches. If there are any differences, they're going to be very minor, and if you really want to dive deep into the different divisions and what are allowed and what isn't allowed, you can always just Google like IDPA divisions and you can look up the rules and read them. There's a lot to it, so I just want to keep it simple and show you kind of the basics. Up first is pistol caliber carbine, which as you can see is basically an AR style rifle. The only difference is that it shoots pistol caliber ammunitions like 9mm, 40 Smith & Wesson, and 45 ACP. However, you're predominantly going to see people using these with 9mm. Next up, we have revolvers. Now, revolvers aren't very popular in USPSA. There are specific competitions that are just for revolvers, but in USPSA, you don't see very many people using them, and the people that are using them are usually using 8-shot revolvers that are chambered in 38 special or 9mm. Up next, we have the single stack division. Now, this division was created specifically for 1911 production style pistols only. Obviously, on the screen here, you see a 1911. Now, a single stack magazine is a thinner magazine where the bullets literally go in and stack one right on top of another, versus a double stack magazine, which is a bit thicker, and the bullets, of course, go in on top of one another, but they go in like a zigzag style pattern, which allows for more ammunition to be put into the magazine at a similar length. Next up, we have the production division. Now, the production division is basically a fully stock pistol. You go to the store, you buy a gun, you take it home, you take it to a competition, you take it out of the box, and you shoot it. No real modifications made. I think you can get away with maybe changing the trigger, possibly adding a little bit of grip tape to the grip or something like that, but for the most part, it's basically bone stock. There's a 10-round magazine capacity. They allow for double action, single action, and striker-fired guns only, and these guns must be on the USPSA approved production handgun list, and you're really only going to see them shooting 9mm. Next up is the Carry Optics division. Now this is the division that I predominantly shoot, with the exception of one competition each month that requires me to run iron sights only. But other than that, any steel match, any IDPA, any USPSA, and I'm running the Carry Optics division. Carry Optics is by far the most popular division in competitive shooting, and the reason for that is that you can take any approved production handgun and modify it basically to your heart's content. You cannot have a magazine well, you cannot have a compensator, and the red dot must be mounted to the slide, not the frame. But other than that, you can basically do whatever it is you want. There's no maximum ammo capacity in this division. There is a maximum magazine length of 5.561 inches, but however many bullets you can cram into 5.561 inches, you're more than welcome to do so. And in this division, you're really only going to see people shooting 9mm. Up next, we have kind of a 3-in-1. It's the limited 10, and limited optics division. Now, the limited division is basically going to be 2011 style pistols, which is essentially a double stacked version of a 1911. They're going to be very, very customized. Grips, magazine wells, trigger work, framework, all kinds of stuff, with the exception of no compensators and no optic. Limited 10 is essentially the exact same thing as limited, with one exception of a maximum ammo capacity of 10 rounds per magazine, but other than that, it's the same thing. Limited optics is a standard limited gun, but you are allowed to run a slide mounted optic. Finally, we have the open division. Now, the open division basically has zero restrictions on what you can do to the pistol. The only restriction is there's a maximum magazine length of 6.742 inches, but other than that, you can do whatever you want. Most of these guns are going to start with a 2011 frame, and they are going to be fully customized. Giant compensators, frame mounted optics, gas pedals, giant mag wells, trigger work, hammers, springs. Everything is polished and machined to be absolutely perfect, and these guns start out at about $5,000 to $6,000. And that's going to do it, guys. Those are the divisions I wanted to cover. Again, I went with USPSA because there are a lot of similarities between USPSA and the other two types of competitions that I shoot. IDPA is a little bit more technical as far as the divisions are concerned, but I didn't want to get that granular and get into all the nuances of IDPA. If you're interested in learning more about that, you can just Google IDPA divisions, and you could really get in there and dive deep and see all the different divisions and what the restrictions are and all that. But this video is already a bit longer than I was hoping for it to be, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it off here. I'm going to do a part 2 where I get into the scoring, and then what I'll probably do is I'll break down a few stages from each different type of match so you guys can kind of follow along with me and get a better understanding. That's going to do it for me, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully you learned a little something. Stay tuned for part 2. This has been your man Diggy Pews. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in my sights.